Hello, um, I'm Dr. Patton, and I'm going to tell you some information about speech and hearing sciences 205 communication disorders, intro to communication disorders. And if you can see, I know I said that I was pretty terribly swollen, but it's gone down quite a bit. So I can actually make a video today and not look like a melting wax figure. So that's great. Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit about me. Um, these are various pictures of me. I was born in Mesa. Usually, this is like gets a big, you know, in person. People are like, "Yay, local." Well, I understand this is an online class. Most of you probably don't even know what Mesa is, aside from meaning table. But um, it's a town. It's a city in near Phoenix, which is where I teach. I teach in Tempe, which is also a city near Phoenix. And then I also teach online. So I graduated from Hamilton. That's in another city near Phoenix. And then after that, I went to ASU, and from there, I got my bachelor's degree, my master's, and my PhD. So everything I've done pretty much at ASU. Um, my PhD is in cognitive science, which is sometimes called cognitive psychology. And what cognitive science is it's kind of an interesting branch of the field that combines a little psychology, like you think of it, also biology, physics, and statistics. And one of the main things that we study, and certainly one of the main things that I studied, was sensation and perception. So, like visual perception, auditory perception, taste perception. And the auditory part is how I ended up here at speech and hearing, because that overlaps pretty well. In fact, actually three of the main people that were involved in setting up ASU's speech and hearing program. I think they've almost all retired by now or are partially retired, but they were all cognitive scientists by trade. And so it's a field that is very similar to cognitive science. All right, so I am also a runner. This is a picture of one of those cool obstacle courses. So me and some friends like to do those. I used to be an actor. This is a still from a movie that I was in. And then after that, I went to work at a radio station. So I've kind of always, in some form, been doing this auditory and visual perception, just in different, various ways, right? So not necessarily studying it here, just the visual medium, and I also mixed sound for movies like dialogue and then also music at the radio station. Of course, music and also dialogue there too. And then I was the production director at the campus radio station, so I was in charge of all the commercials and things like that. And then those kind of came together to be something that I really liked doing, wanted to know more about it, ended up getting a PhD in cognitive science, and now I teach classes in speech and hearing. So, one of the things that I'm going to ask you about, actually, a couple of you have already given me the answers to these, are your favorite movies. What are your favorite movies? And since I'm, like one or two, what's your most favorite? If you can't break it down to one, maybe one or two, maybe three. Which ones do you like? And so I have a few. I think a couple of them. This one was definitely came out like way before I was born, but it is a fantastic movie, Chinatown. It's just the best film noir movie of all time. So if you enjoy like crime dramas, mystery type things, especially with an ending that film noir is famous for having endings that just make you feel like terrible about humanity. This one will do it. So you should watch it. It's excellent. Totally a masterpiece of cinema. Brick is another film noir. It's different. It's like set in a high school. This is by Ryan Johnson, who also did Knives Out, which is another fantastic movie. Big Trouble in Little China. This one is not film noir. It's just amazing. And if you haven't seen it, you should. Independence Day, classic. And then the most recent thing that I watched that was really good was, I'm kind of late to this party, but like this year I got into Westworld. And there's like a 2 or 3 episode arc that plays out like a movie. It's fantastic. The whole show is really good. Third season, the first 2 are great. Okay, so yours, I want to know about in the discussion board. So that is your first assignment for this class is what are your favorite movies? One of your other first assignments for this class is where are you? So all you're going to do is just kind of tag an area close to where you are on a map that you'll find on Canvas. I tagged a mountain that I like to go to. I considered tagging a coffee shop that I like to go to. You can tag whatever you want. If you want to tag exactly your house, you can. But that's weird. Okay. Let me tell you more about me and more professionally about me. So here's some research that I do. One of probably the most fun things I do is I research swear words. And what this graph is showing you is the rate that we use different vowel phonemes in regular words, which is these light-colored bars, versus swear words, which are these dark-colored bars. And so you can see things like E, we use a lot more in non-swear words. Somewhat more often in swear words, but the error bar on this one is huge. So it's about similar. Way more often in swear words than in regular words. You might think, hey, I can think of some excellent swear words that have the phoneme in them. Yeah, me too. And the interesting thing with this one is there are really 2 phonemes that are mixed up here as There's like in but, that's on this graph, the word but. That's the stressed version of And then there's also the unstressed syllable, schwa. It's in the word information, that shun at the end. Sure, it sounds like an but it's unstressed. It's actually just kind of the default shape of our vocal tract that kind of just goes And if you break it down, if you break the uhs down into stressed and unstressed uhs, you find that stressed uhs are much more common in swear words than they are in just, non-swear words. But that schwa, the unstressed version, is way more common in regular words, regular American English words, than in American swear words. I don't think that the unstressed, I don't think the schwa actually has anything to do with swear words. I think that's just because swear words are shorter. So it's not like you're going to have something end in tion, so you're going to say shun. But the hypothesis that we're working with right now is that there are 2 phonemes that are much, 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 much more favored for swear words. That's and If you have people arrange phonemes by similarity, what you end up with is kind of a circular-ish graph-ish. And a and end up on the extremes of this graph. They're, if you then ask people questions about these phonemes, like which one is most pleasant, a and are not rated as the most pleasant. In fact, a is one of the most dissonant phonemes that are in the collection of American vowel phonemes. And is perceived as having the lowest frequency, even when all the frequencies are controlled to be the same frequency. And so we think that this has something to do with what words become swear words. If you look at the history of swear words, there's definitely some words I can think of that didn't start out necessarily as swear words. They were just words. In fact, the more G-rated version of this is crap and poop. Neither of them were necessarily like rude. Neither of them are swear words, really. But certainly one is a little bit worse than the other, right? Crap is somehow worse than poop, but not like swear words. At one point, crap was not considered a rude word at all. Somehow it like filtered down through time and ended up becoming something that's like a neighbor of a swear word. And poop is more something that's not really a swear word. Like it's almost somehow cute. There's like the book Everybody Poops, like dogs. There's my dog's pooping. Stuff like that. So it's much more accepted. In fact, if you look at the opposite effect, if you look at the words that are used more often in regular American words, one of the things you see is E. The other one that you see is oo. And what we've noticed there, those are at the opposite ends of the spectrum from a and E is the opposite of and oo is opposite of a. This is just based on similarity between the phonemes that people rate. Those are the phonemes that are used in parentese, like when you're talking to a puppy or a baby or something like that, trying to make things sound cute. You use E and oo. It just so happens they're the opposite of the word of the phonemes that are used more often in swear words. So it seems like it's not random. It's not necessarily the meaning of the word that makes it be a swear word. It has something to do with the sound as well. So another thing that I look at is this guy down here. He's playing something called a Doon talking drum. Basically, this drum is so cool. It's not just a drum. It's like a drum and a bass at once. When you hit this thing, you can like use your arm to like tighten the strings up, and so it kind of goes like boom, boom, boom. You can like change the pitch of the drum while you hit it. So it's a percussion instrument, but it's also like a musical instrument. It's really cool. One even cooler thing about this drum is that it can actually be used to replicate speech. The language that is spoken, well, there's a few different languages that are spoken where this Doon drum is from. They're in the Niger-Congo language family. Specifically, we're looking at a language called Yoruba, but all of these are tonal languages, which means that something that goes is different than something that goes That's not a phoneme that's actually used, but just as a, for instance, agbo and agbo. Those are two different things. That's what the person that I work with who's from Nigeria uses as an example. Agbo, AGBO, and we were presenting this at a conference one day, and she just starts laughing hysterically, and I'm like, "Did I say the wrong thing?" Like after, like, did I say the wrong thing when you were laughing? And she's like, "No, the way you said Agbo at one point means penis. And I'm like, why would you choose Agbo as the word you have me say when I don't speak this tonal language? And that's what happened at the conference. The two people that spoke Yoruba thought it was like hilarious. Anyway, luckily most people didn't. So I didn't totally make an ass of myself. Anyway, so what we're doing is we're looking at the way that the drum is played. What characteristics of speech are used in the drum to convey speech, and what are left out. So what are important components that allow people to understand this as speech, and what in speech, at least in this language, are just not important components. If you can understand the message with only a limited instrument like a drum, there must be something that's not as important. And then lastly, another thing that I research is color vision. We're not going to talk about that a whole lot because it doesn't have anything to do with speech and hearing, but this is a story about me and some co-authors in Psychology Today. I work with, among other people, a Nobel Prize winner, which is fun. What we're doing is we're trying to find the fourth color cone. So in most people, there's 3 color cones, red, green, and blue. In people who have color blindness, usually it's green and blue, but there's different kinds of color blindness. So it's not always that the red cone is not present. It could be that the blue cone is not present. There's different types of all of them. It's just one is way more common than the others. Anyway, there are some people that have 4 cones. This was considered like almost pseudoscience for a long time, from the 50s up until the early 2000s. And then when genetic testing started being a thing, the people that were doing the genetic testing realized that there were markers in some people for 4 cones. And the interesting part about that is some people that have the markers for 4 cones don't seem to see any different than the rest of us, but other people that have the markers for 4 cones do. It seems like they can see more colors than we do. If you think of color as a circle, there's like the color wheel, then you would think that people who have color blindness are more like a color line, because you're removing one dimension. There's more colors than that, I know, because there's like brightness differences and hue differences, so it's not just something along a line. But we're kind of removing brightness and hue differences. We're just thinking of pure color differences. So there's a line if you're colorblind. Color anomalous is kind of a ellipse instead of a line, but it's not quite a circle. Those of us who have 3 cones, most of us, are a circle. And then people who have 4 cones, it's like a sphere. It's like a whole ball. There's so many more colors. And what we want to know is, where's that 4th color? What is the 4th color cone seeing? Red, green, blue. What is the 4th one? There's some theories that it could be yellow. There's some theories that it could be placed in different places for different people. Some theories that it could be ultraviolet, but it needs testing. And we're doing some of that testing. Okay, let's keep going. Let's talk about the structure of the class. In our class, there's going to be 5 exams. The lowest one of those exams is dropped. These are all going to be completed online. That makes sense. It's an online class. I don't even know why I wrote that. And yet there it is. There's going to be 4 regular exams. What I mean by that is we're going to go through some modules, and then there's going to be an exam, more modules, an exam, and it just covers the modules since the last exam. The first exam covers just the first stuff that you're exposed to. The second exam is everything from the first test to the next one. The 5th exam is a comprehensive final, but it's comprised of questions from the other 4 exams, so it's not like you're going into it completely blind. The lowest of these is dropped. What does that mean for you? That means that if you do really poorly on the first exam, because, that's just how exams go sometimes, you're kind of like feeling out what the class is about, what the instructor thinks is important that they're going to put on the exam. That's fine. That could be your lowest exam. Let's say you're an A+ student usually and you get a B on it. Okay, so take the next ones, get an A+ on all the other exams, and only the A+ exams are going to count because your one B exam is dropped. Now, what if you're a person who gets an A on exams from the beginning, and you get an A, and then another A, and then another A, and another A? Well, that means that on the fifth exam, on the final, you have an A on all these other four. You could not take it at all. And it would go in as a 0 into the grade book, but then I'm going to drop the lowest exam, and that means that that 0 goes away, and that means that you did not have to take your final. Cool. You have an illness come up, or there's you forget to take an exam or something. There's, internet problems, whatever. You have a free exam. Great. If you have an illness, though, we'll try to work it out so you don't actually have to use your dropped exam. There's also some homework and stuff that we can rearrange for you if there's an illness. There are 6 quizzes in this class. For each quiz, you get 2 attempts. Sorry, hang on. Let me jump back. For those 5 exams, they are done in Respondus Lockdown browser, which means you cannot go other places on your computer. It's a closed book exam. You're going to have to do an environment check with your camera. You're going to have to leave your camera on while you take the exam, so someone is like watching you from inside the camera. So no cheating, basically, is what I'm saying. Now the quizzes are like cheat fiesta. You cheat as much as you want on a quiz, which I guess means it's not really cheating because it's open note. But here's what I want you to do with the quizzes. Since you have 2 attempts, what I want you to do is the first time you take the quiz, treat it like an exam. Close note, just see what you know, because that'll clue you in to what you need to study for the exam. Now, the second time you go through, get your book out, make sure you get 100%. Don't not get 100% on the quizzes. They're there to help you boost your grade. They're not really there to hurt you. That's why they're open note. So, first time, treat it like an exam. Second time, just get 100% however you can. Exams, closed note, no notes, nothing out. Do not cheat on your exam. There's also homeworks. There's 3 homework assignments. 2 of them are written papers. One is extraordinarily short. It's like a page at most. It's really 2 paragraphs. The second one is a bit longer. You're going to have to actually search for sources for that one and write essentially a research paper. Then there's a final presentation. What you're going to do with the final presentation is you're going to take the research that you have from the second paper, you're going to add a few more sources to it, and then you're just going to make a PowerPoint presentation from those sources. And what you're going to turn in is your PowerPoint presentation. You can just turn in the PowerPoint slides, or if you want, you can record it as a video, like the lectures that I'm going to show you. I may give you extra credit if you do it with a video. I haven't decided yet. I'll let you know before I assign that for sure. We'll see. Okay. Either way, you have to turn in the PowerPoint slides. Everything that you're going to turn in, all your homeworks, are checked for plagiarism. So once again, just like your exams, do not cheat. If you do cheat, you get a 0 on that assignment. And depending on how bad the cheating is, there's different kinds of cheating. If you plagiarize something unknowingly, like you didn't realize that it was plagiarizing, which you should, because we're going to talk about that in class. So it's not really an excuse for that, but if it happens, 0 on the assignment. Knowingly copying something, then might fail the class, and it could go further than that. There have been people that have been expelled in the department. One of them was in my classes, so just don't do it. If you're not good at writing, it's better that you turn something in than getting a 0. Okay, extra credit. It might exist. Something will exist, for sure. There might be some research studies that you can do. In fact, I know of one that I'm going to be able to give you a link to pretty early on in the class. If there aren't research studies, which are definitely the easiest way to earn extra credit, then I'll give you some sort of other assignment that'll be an extra credit assignment. So there will be at least 2 ways to earn extra credit in class, possibly more, but at least 2. One other thing, let's see, no, went back too far. One other assignment that you're going to have is attendance, which is really hard to do in an online class. But basically what it is I'm going to each week have something that you're looking for while you watch the videos. I'm going to ask you a question in an announcement. I'll say the word of the week for this week is, what something did someone use to do something? That's just stupid. You get it. You get what I'm saying. Anyway, something like that. And so while you're watching the videos, you'll be like, oh, that's the thing he's talking about. You submit that for your word of the week, and you get an attendance point. And that's great. And if you don't submit it, you don't get that point. But you should. You should do it. It's a good way to raise your grade. Okay. All right. So DRC. Yeah, this is important. Sales is what the DRC is called now. I just cannot remember what that stands for. Student accommodation, and then 3 other letters. It used to be called the DRC, which is a Disability Resource Center, so that should at least give you some idea of what sales does. They're the same people, it's the same place, they do all the same stuff, but they changed their name. Either way, you should visit sales, either in person or digitally, if you think that you could use some sort of accommodation. I know that there are some things that are, obvious. If you can't see well, you can't hear well, there's definitely you're like, yeah, okay, I should get some accommodations for this. True, you should, absolutely. But there are other things that are less obvious that you should maybe also get accommodations for. So things like dyslexia, test anxiety, auditory processing disorder. There have been people that I've had in my classes who, as we talk about dyslexia, which actually isn't a disorder that we talk about in this class, but I've mentioned it. Some of the symptoms reminded them of themselves, and they got tested at sales for dyslexia, and this person came to me and said, hey, all my life I've been dyslexic slightly, and now I get extra time on my exams, and I do really well in class. And that's great. That's totally awesome. They discovered that they were slightly dyslexic. I remember them saying they thought that they were just kind of maybe not very smart, but then they also thought but that doesn't make sense. It's just I can't read these things, but I feel smart in my head. And that is one of the things that made them, when I was talking about it, they're like, oh, that sounds like me. And anyway, they do great in their classes now that they get extra time. There's also fonts that you can install for your computer that help you read text if you're dyslexic. They don't work for everybody. There's a few different kinds of dyslexia, but they're these weird kind of like, they're like thick fonts, like, double C. Because they're like skinny at the top and then they're like boom at the bottom. They look kind of weird. They look like 70s lettering, but for some reason, this helps like keep the bottom anchored, the bottom of the words anchored for while you're reading across. And so if you are dyslexic and that you didn't know about those fonts, you should try it. It's called Open Dyslexia. You can download it. Most computers have it as part of the like package that they come with. If they don't, you can just download it from a font, database, and add it to your computer, and then see if it helps. It's not going to help everybody, but it might help. There's a couple other fonts as well, so for different types of dyslexia. Auditory processing disorder is another one that sometimes people have, and they just assume like this is normal, and then as they learn about it, they realize, oh, that's not normal, and they can also get accommodations. It's not such an issue with an online class. So you might be fine if you have auditory processing disorder with an online class. Although I do have a podcast class for language science, and there's a person that had auditory processing disorder. It's not a good fit for them. So that one of the areas where I think they needed to just read the transcripts instead of listening to the lectures. The other thing is, like if you feel like there's anything going on with you, it does not hurt to see. If you talk to sales, they'll have some tests that you take, and if you are fine and there's nothing wrong with you, nobody knows that you went to them. You and the person that gave you the test. That's it. It doesn't go anywhere else. It doesn't go to friends, family, me. Nobody knows. So if you're, feel like you'd be embarrassed that you went to see and then there was nothing, don't, because nobody's going to know. The other thing is, what if you do qualify for services, for accommodations? It could totally mean the difference, between not doing well in your classes and getting A's, A pluses. And this is a competitive program. So the better grades you can get, the better you do. So it's worth at least checking out if you feel like there is something going on. Okay, last thing. This is a like diversity positive class. It's try to be an equitable class. I try to talk about things, issues that are relevant to speech and hearing jobs, things that you'll encounter on the job that relate to diversity issues. That I'm also on the College of Health Solutions Jedi Council, the Center for Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, where I work for more equitable hiring practices and curriculum development. In fact, there I am right there on the Jedi Council. The thing is, there are not that many topics in this class that are like super diversity related, because we're just kind of talking about like overview. So talk about it where they exist. And certainly there are more issues. It's such a broad class, though. You can't really cover them. If it's something you're interested in or something that's important to you, this is definitely the kind of thing that you could do for your homework, too. I should have told you about that. Sorry. For homework 2, you're going to choose a disorder or an issue in speech and hearing that is something we do cover or we don't cover. You're going to go deeper into it. It could be stuttering. We are going to cover that. You could go deeper into it. It could be auditory processing disorder. We're not covering it just because there's not enough time to cover everything. So you could go into that. Or it could be something like health equity disparity related to, audiology, which we definitely aren't going to talk about in here because we're talking about disorders. You could do that. So that's the kind of thing that you're going to do for paper 2. It's just a deeper dive into a topic, either deeper than we do here because we're not covering it, either of those things. And then the third, just expanding on that. Okay, so that is the introduction video, and good luck on this class. All the things in Module 0, those are going to be due the first week, along with everything from the first week. Really, there's only one thing, which is the syllabus quiz, and that actually counts as one of your 6 quizzes. So there's not going to be a Module 1 quiz. The syllabus quiz is the Module 1 quiz. Okay. Good luck, and I'll talk to you soon. And there's also a button I have to click to... there we go.